Garmin has been the go-to brand for sports watches in the last decade, and its Garmin Venu 3 model is the closest the company gets to a smartwatch, with support for a voice assistant, routing calls through the watch, and so on. But when it comes to true smartwatches, the Apple Watch has been by far the most popular option, and it becomes even better in this latest Apple Watch Series 10 iteration. The Garmin Venu 3 has improved functionality, but it still runs on the proprietary Garmin operating system, so you still don't have an app store, watch faces don't look nearly as good, and lack functionality, so it is definitely limited. However, at the same time, the Venu 3 has a beautiful OLED screen. It feels fast to use, and you have a few other smartwatch-like features. For the most part, it feels like a smartwatch. So should you get it? Or is it better to buy the Apple Watch? We compare the Garmin Venu 3 against the Apple Watch Series 10, telling you about all the differences. We're glad that both the Garmin Venu 3 and the Apple Watch Series 10 are available in two sizes, a 41mm S size model. The Garmin calls it the Venu 3S, and you get a bigger 45mm version called the Venu 3, and you have slightly bigger sizes on the Apple Watch at 42mm and 46mm. Which size should you go for? Typically, if your wrist size is 170mm or less, it makes sense to consider the smaller model, while people with bigger wrists would usually go for the bigger size. Let's address the elephant in the room. The Venu 3 is round, the Apple Watch is a rectangle. Which one is better? Everyone has their own opinion, so this really boils down to personal preference. Pick the one you like better, and don't worry about others' opinions here. As for build quality, both have a similar water resistance rating, and you can use them for swimming. However, the Apple Watch now also supports diving at depths of up to 6 meters, which is an advantage, and you can use it for snorkeling activities. One downside of the Venu 3 is that it's made of plastic and feels and looks a bit cheap. This might be a surprise considering you pay more for it, but that's the way things are. Plastic doesn't feel premium, but it has one advantage: it weighs a bit less. But the Series 10 also gets a reduced weight, so the gap isn't that big. Finally, in terms of buttons, you have 3 buttons on the right side of the Garmin, while the Apple Watch has the digital crown and one other button below it. The Venu 3 uses regular spring bar bands in a size of 22mm for the Venu 3 and 18mm for the Venu 3S. The Series 10, on the other hand, uses Apple's proprietary band swap system, where you press a button and slide the band sideways to change it. It's definitely a bit easier to swap bands on the Apple Watch, but the good old system that Garmin uses is also not too bad. As for the default band, the Garmin arrives with a sport band with easy of adjustment and one that feels soft and comfortable for prolonged wear. On the Apple Watch, you can choose a band when purchasing, so you're not limited to just one. The Sport Loop band is also very soft and comfy, but we find adjustments a bit more difficult. Of course, you have tons of other bands available for both devices. Now let's start with this. The Apple Watch interface and software feels much more refined and capable than the Garmin one. There's no contest here. Even clearing a notification is a bit tedious on the Garmin, let alone some more complex tasks like creating a timer or an alarm. Many of the menu elements are also arranged weirdly and take time to get used to. The Apple Watch looks next level in terms of graphics and refinement, and it's also perfectly smooth, while on the Garmin you do notice a bit of a stutter every once in a while. The Venu 3 has Garmin's latest Elevate Gen 5 sensor, the same one as on the premium Phoenix 8 series, but isn't as good as the Apple Watch. In our testing, the two were really close most of the time, with some slight differences visible with more vigorous activities like outdoor bike riding, which is a challenge for watches as the watch moves around quickly and unpredictably. Both the Garmin and the Apple Watch keep track of when you fall asleep, when you wake up, and how much time you spend in each of the sleep stages: deep sleep, light or core sleep, and REM sleep. The Garmin app, however, gives a bit more context, telling you how your sleep stages compare to recommendations, while you don't get that piece of information on the Apple Watch. Scientific measurements from various testers show that the Apple Watch has more accurate sleep tracking estimations, while Garmin watches are not as good, but still pretty close. To be more specific, when measuring REM sleep, the Garmin's a bit less precise, but in the few nights where we wore both the Venu 3 and the Apple Watch Series 10 to bed, the results were very close. Despite both these watches offering single L1 band GPS, Both provide excellent accuracy. Unless you're run in a very dense urban area like Manhattan, where you do need dual band GPS, you'll see fairly accurate GPS data from both these watches. Garmin advertises that you can get up to 14 days on a single charge on the Venu 3, while Apple Watch battery life is just 18 hours. In our real-world testing, with one workout a day and the always-on function enabled, the Venu 3S we had lasted around 5 days between charges, while on the Apple Watch, we had to recharge every single day. Way more annoying. This alone is a big reason why Garmin's still so popular. Many people just don't want to worry about charging yet another device. But the Series 10 remedies this a little bit with a much faster charging experience, as you can now get a day's worth of charge in just 30 minutes. The Garmin charges quite quickly as well, but just not as fast. Also, the Venu 3 uses its own proprietary cable, so it is a wire connection that you have to plug in, while the Apple Watch uses a magnetic charger, which is an easier process. When it comes to the models, Garmin watches are not available with cellular connectivity, so they are more dependent on your phone connection, while with Apple Watches, you can get the cellular version and go out on a hike or a run without your phone and still get notifications and calls. As for prices, the Garmin Venu 3 or the Venu 3S offer $450, the Apple Watch Series 10 aluminum 42 or 46mm go for $400 or $430. Add $100 on top of that for cellular connectivity, while the Apple Watch Series 10 titanium, the 42 or 46mm goes for $700 or $750. All models have cellular connectivity. With a microphone and speaker on board, you can take and place calls via the Garmin Venu 3, which is nice. Of course, you've had this functionality on the Apple Watch for years. As for haptics though, the vibration motor on the Apple Watch feels more refined and sharper. With the Garmin Venu 3, you can forget about the nuisance of daily charging, and with moderate use, you can expect to charge it about once a week. And you get that amazing battery life with a vibrant OLED screen on board too. There is a bit less refinement though. Watch faces are not as pretty, the performance is just a beat slower, and so on. However, if you want a true smartwatch with watch faces that offer complications, a fast and beautiful user interface, perfect integration with iPhones and various apps, the Apple Watch Series 10 certainly has the upper hand. So pick what you value more and get the watch that excels in that area. So which team are you on? Team Garmin or Team Apple?